All right, everyone, buckle up because we're diving deep today
Deep.
into the world of classical music.
Ooh, I
But
love this stuff.
yeah, our listeners are big on music and history. So
They're in for a treat?
yeah, we're going to go way beyond just the famous composers and the concertos and the sonatas and all that.
Right, the stuff everybody knows.
Right, we're going to look at the money, the power.
Ooh, the drama.
Yeah, the drama, the whole system of patronage.
Yes.
That shaped how this music came to be.
Exactly, because we're talking at a time when composers weren't like rock stars selling out stadiums.
Right.
They relied on these patrons, these wealthy individuals, or sometimes institutions.
Like the church.
Exactly like the church.
To fund their work.
Yeah, to literally keep the lights on and the music flowing.
So like if you were a composer back then
Yeah.
and you wanted to write a symphony or an opera.
You needed someone with deep pockets to say,
Yeah.
hey, I like your style. I'll commission you to write this piece.
Write me a banger.
It's going to be a banger for my, birthday party or my, coronation or
Up
whatever.
front, exactly.
So their influence, the patron's influence, it really shaped what kind of music got created.
So let's start with probably the biggest patron of all time, at least when it comes to early music.
Oh, yeah.
The church.
The church was a powerhouse.
Huge.
I mean, think about it. They needed music for every occasion.
Yeah.
Masses, processions, you name it.
Yeah, they needed those Gregorian chants to set the mood.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about the chants. Think about those incredible choral works.
Oh, yeah.
That came out of the Renaissance.
Like a Palestrina.
Palestrina, exactly commissioned by the Pope himself.
Wow.
To fill the Sistine Chapel with these just glorious sounds.
It's like you can almost hear those echoes bouncing off the frescoes.
I know, right? Talk
Yeah.
about setting the scene for a divine experience.
Yeah, and the church, they weren't just commissioning music for their own enjoyment.
Right.
I mean, they believed that music could elevate the soul.
Oh, absolutely. It was a way to connect with the divine.
Right, to create a sense of awe and reverence.
So it's like they weren't just patrons. They were kind of like...
Spiritual investors.
Yeah, exactly. They were investing in
the power of music.
In the salvation of souls.
Exactly.
Through music.
High
stakes composing.
Definitely.
So, okay, we've talked about the church, but let's move on to another major player in the patronage game.
Okay.
The royal courts.
Ah, the royal courts. Now we're talking glamour, intrigue, and some seriously talented composers.
Yeah, so for a composer, I imagine being in the good graces of a king or queen.
Oh, yeah.
That must have been like hitting the jackpot.
It was the dream gig, steady income access to the best instruments, a captive audience of nobles.
Yeah, they didn't have to worry about, selling tickets or...
Right, no hustling for gigs.
Yeah, exactly.
You had your patron, you had your purpose, you could just focus on creating.
So like you had composers like Haydn, right?
Haydn, the father of the symphony, basically lived at the Esterhazy Palace.
For like 30 years churning out masterpieces.
And then you had Lully in the French court.
Oh, Lully. He was the king's composer, quite literally.
He was the Sun King's composer.
The Sun King loved him, and Lully, he knew how to play the game.
Oh, yeah?
He wrote music that celebrated the king's power and glory.
Yeah. It's like they were the original influencers.
Totally. They knew how to cater to their audience.
Yeah, but I imagine it wasn't always easy, right?
Oh, of course not. It wasn't all champagne and waltzes.
Yeah, like what if the Duke wanted a fanfare for his hunting dogs?
And you're feeling like writing a somber requiem.
Yeah, or what if the Queen decides she wants to learn the harpsichord and you have to be her teacher?
Even if she has no musical talent whatsoever.
Exactly. So there must have been this constant tension.
Oh, absolutely.
Between the composer's own artistic vision,
right,
and the expectations of their patron.
It's a delicate dance.
Yeah.
You want to please your patron.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to completely sacrifice your own artistic integrity.
So how did composers navigate that? How did they balance those competing forces?
Well, some were more successful than others. Some were able to subtly push the boundaries.
Right.
Maybe sneak in a few dissonant chords here and there.
Or a little bit of rhythmic complexity that the patron might not even notice.
Exactly. Just enough to satisfy their own creative urges.
But then you have other composers who maybe weren't so lucky.
Right. Who maybe had to compromise more than they wanted to.
And that's got to be tough, when your livelihood depends on someone else's taste.
It's a tough gig, no doubt about it.
So how did this system of patronage eventually start to change?
Well, one of the biggest factors was the rise of public concerts.
So before public concerts, how did people experience music?
I mean, it was mostly in churches or private gatherings.
Right, so like if you weren't a nobleman or a bishop,
You weren't hearing much of the good stuff.
you were stuck with the tavern band or something.
Exactly, but then public concerts started popping up.
And suddenly,
Music became accessible to a wider audience.
and composers could connect directly with the people who loved their music.
Exactly, they didn't have to go through this intermediary of a
They
patron.
could build their own reputation.
Yeah, and earn a living through ticket sales.
And that's a game changer.
It really is. It's like the birth of the music industry as we know it.
So was this shift entirely positive?
I mean, it definitely gave composers more freedom,
Right.
more control over their careers.
But were there any downsides to losing that guaranteed support from a patron?
Well, it certainly wasn't a walk in the park. Composers now had to worry about marketing themselves,
Right.
securing venues, dealing with all the logistics of putting on concerts.
Yeah, it's like the rise of the independent artist.
Totally. They had to be entrepreneurs as well as artists.
So it's like a trade-off, right?
Exactly.
More freedom, but also more responsibility.
More risk, more reward.
So let's talk about a group of composers who faced even more challenges within this system.
Okay.
Women.
Yeah, women in music. During this time, it was a whole other level of difficulty.
Right? Like what were some of the obstacles they faced?
Well, for starters, there were all these societal expectations that women should be wives and mothers.
Right, not composers.
Exactly. Composing was seen as a man's domain.
So even if a woman had talent and passion for music,
It would have been really difficult to pursue it seriously.
yeah, like were there any opportunities for them to study music formally?
Very few. I mean, they were largely excluded from conservatories and academies.
So they couldn't get the training and the connections that men could.
Exactly. They had to find creative ways to learn and to be heard.
So were there any women who managed to break through these barriers?
Oh, absolutely. There were some incredible women composers who defied the odds.
Like who?
Well, one of the most famous examples is Clara Schumann,
Oh yeah, she was amazing.
an incredible pianist and composer.
Yeah, and she wasn't just talented, she was really strategic.
Oh, yeah, she knew how to play the game
Yeah, she used concert tours and teaching to build her reputation.
and to gain recognition in a male-dominated field.
So it's like she created her own opportunities.
Exactly. She didn't wait for someone to give her permission.
And her story is just so inspiring.
It really is. It shows that talent and determination can overcome even the toughest obstacles.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Mm.
I'm curious, how does all of this connect to the art world today?
It's a great question. I mean, obviously, we don't have composers being summoned to the Queen's court anymore,
Right.
but the core idea of patronage is still very much alive.
How so?
Well, think about it. Artists today rely on grants, sponsorships, crowdfunding,
Oh yeah.
even individual donations.
So it's like a more diversified system.
Exactly. It's not just about one wealthy patron anymore.
Right. It's about finding support from a variety of sources.
And building a community around your work.
So both systems have their pros and cons, right?
Definitely patronage in the classical era could be very limiting,
Right.
but it also fostered incredible creativity.
Yeah. And today, artists have more freedom,
Hmm.
but they also face the pressure of building their own audience.
And navigating a complex funding landscape.
It's like a different set of challenges, but the same underlying need for support.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know about you, but I've learned so much from this deep dive.
Me too. It's amazing how much funding has shaped the soundscape of each era.
Yeah, it's like a hidden fierce that we don't always think about.
But it's always there influencing what art gets created and heard.
It really makes you wonder if you were a patron in the classical era.
Ooh, good question.
What kind of music would you commission?
What stories would you want to bring to life through sound?
And for our listeners, I challenge you to think about that too.
Yeah.
What art moves you who's out there pushing boundaries, creating something truly unique?
Support them. Spread the word.
Keep exploring, keep listening, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of patronage and classical music.
See you next time.
Bye.